Good afternoon, my fellow Red Deerians. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us for today's announcement. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to connect with you in this way. City Manager Seabrook and I will be providing you with an update this evening on the city's response to the new provincial measures announced yesterday, which I'm sure you heard the Premier announce and then have gone over on the Alberta government website. But we'll give you the city's response today. Look, we know that these measures significantly impact community life, family life, the upcoming holidays that we have all been looking forward to, and putting substantial and increasing stress on our local businesses in what has already proven to be an extremely challenging year for all of us in one way or another. However, it is imperative that we all do absolutely everything that we can to follow public health orders. This is the only way that we are going to stop the spread of COVID-19 in our community, and above all, to increase capacity on our local healthcare system. Now more than ever, and I know we all have pandemic fatigue, and with the new public health protocols in place that were announced yesterday, we need to come together to support our community in whatever way we can. Whether this means supporting our local businesses, if you're able to, in a manner that's safe, or reaching out to local charities who rely on the holiday season for that extra push of support, and to just see what you can do in support of community organizations at this time, if you're in a financial, if you're in rather the position financially to be able to do so. With the news of the gathering restrictions being in place over the holiday season, we know that this will be a very difficult holiday season for many. Certainly for all of us who will be missing our friends and our loved ones, and especially for those who are already isolated, vulnerable, and struggling. Well, the provincial list of things that we cannot do is long, and certainly that's all that we have been focusing on over the past 24 hours. I'd like to just remind you that we are doing our best, and to please remember that there do remain things that we can continue to do. As always, our extensive parks and trails system remains open, and we ask that you physically distance when using that. The lights in City Hall Park are on and will continue to remain on, and it's been incredible watching people come down to enjoy that. Skating on our many outdoor rinks in neighborhoods and at our signature facilities are still open, as well as the outdoor park nodes. And again, the Stantec Santa Bus is doing another tour around our city this Saturday evening. And I know many of you enjoyed that and some of you missed it, but Santa is still making his tour around the community. And many local businesses do remain open and are offering safe shopping and pickup options and need your support. Red Deer as a community, we need to come together as we did in March. And we know that we've been doing our local response for many, many, many months. And we're looking forward to putting 2020 behind us and moving into 2021 where help is on the way. We need to continue to support each other. We need to show compassion and kindness to our fellow Red Deerians, and so that we can get through this together and look forward to a prosperous and a safe new year, and where we can get back to life as we once knew it. I know that there are competing views and ideas about how we should and should not be responding, but please know this: we have come this far, and we are nearly through it. When you run a marathon, you do not and you cannot give up on the final stretch. And with some of the news around vaccination that will be available, particularly to the vulnerable, that really will prove to be a game changer early in 2021. So please hear my community plea, and let's not give up now. Let's continue to stay safe and stay strong and find our way back to the community that I know that we are. I will pass things over to City Manager Seabrook to talk about the impacts of the new provincial restrictions we'll have on city operations. Alan Seabrook will have significant detail about the impacts to city services, and then I look forward to taking your live questions. So I'll be back at the podium here shortly.
So thank you, Mayor Veer, and good afternoon, Red Deer. Yesterday, the government in Alberta announced a suite of new measures that were aimed at reducing the spread of COVID-19 in our province. As a city, we are committed to upholding these measures and provincial orders and doing our part to reduce transmission of the virus locally. In alignment with provincial restrictions, all indoor recreation and cultural facilities will close effective end of day December the 12th. While the province indicated these restrictions are in place until at least January 12th, we will be extending the facility closures possibly to as far as January 30th, but that remains open depending on provincial restrictions and provincial advice. The impact of facilities that we are speaking of are the Cullicut Centre, the GH Dawg Community Centre, Recreation Centre, the Michener Aquatic Centre, Service Arena, Kinex Arena, and the Kinsman Community Arenas. All neighborhood activity centers, including rentals, the Red Deer Museum and Art Gallery, Festival Hall, Memorial Center, and Cronquist House, as well as the intermediate school site, all leased spaces within city-operated recreation and cultural facilities, including food vendors, retail stores, and private recreation providers, will be closed. In addition, in-person customer service at the temporary City Hall at the Recreation Center will close early next week. With this change, in-person payments will no longer be possible after that date, which we will announce later this week. And we'll work with the public to facilitate other forms of payment. Online payment options through individual financial institutions and through My City continue to be an option for you. The closure of these facilities into the latter part of January will allow us to make efficient reopening of these facilities while also having greater flexibility to adapt to any new, additional, or extended provincial restrictions that may be in place at that time. We know our recreation centers provide an essential service for many residents to maintain their physical and well-being and health. And while our buildings may not be open, many of our outdoor amenities remain open. Our outdoor rinks, including all neighborhood rinks, of which there are some 70 in the city, Bower Ponds, and the speed skating oval at Setter's Place remain open. Of course, our extensive trails and park systems, including hundreds of kilometers of trails that are groomed for cross-country skiing, will remain for your use. Outdoor green spaces that serve as tobogganing hills and other spontaneous use are of course available throughout the community. We remind everyone that these outdoor amenities are only to be used by members of your household, as no outdoor gatherings are permitted under provincial restrictions. I know these measures are challenging for all of us, but I thank you for your ongoing efforts to do everything possible to minimize the spread of COVID-19 and its devastating impacts. I'll now take questions from the public and media. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question from public is, will there be any changes to transit?
So thanks for that question. Yes, similar to the last shutdown that occurred in the first phase of COVID-19, we did make some changes to our transit routes based on ridership and of course the drop in the amount of transit use as businesses closed, and many businesses will now be closed effective Saturday evening. We will be making some changes to that system. Our transit staff are currently working on what that will look like, and we will be communicating that to the public as we make those types of changes. In terms of the parks maintenance, the question is, will there be extra parks maintenance on our trails and pathways? And yes, there will be. Our staff are currently looking at our operating procedures. With some of the deployment of some of our full-time staff that are working in facilities, we know that our trails, our pathways will get additional use, as well as our outdoor rinks. So we're currently evaluating and increasing our service levels in those areas to accommodate that additional use. which will include some additional clearing options. We know that many of our trail systems are connected with stairwells, and as the weather continues to affect us, and if we get additional snow, we are putting processes in place to clear these as quickly as possible and to clear out some additional areas so people will be able to access the various trail systems throughout the neighborhoods and throughout the city.
Next question, will the pools be emptied again?
So in the case of the pools, yes, all pools will be closed. Arenas will be closed. Basically all indoor recreation and cultural facilities, including fitness centers, gyms, pools, and all of our arenas will be closed to the public again until further notice. We anticipate it will be sometime in the latter part of January when we may be able to reopen, but of course that is subject to the provincial guidelines and more provincial advice, as the Premier indicated to us yesterday.
We have a question from our friends at RD News Now. If you could tell us about the staffing impacts.
So in terms of staffing impacts, yes, there will be staffing impacts, which will be very similar to the first wave that went through. You will recall, as a result of closing all our recreation and cultural facilities, we did have temporary work interruptions, as well as some layoffs to our part-time staff, temporary casual staff, as well as some full-time staff. And we are currently evaluating that with the various operating departments in all facilities, looking at as many deployment opportunities as possible. But yes, there will be staffing impacts that will occur over the next month as a result of those announcements.
Next question, who is policing areas like the outdoor rinks?
So in terms of enforcement and policing, our CPOs have been given additional authority under provincial guidelines for enforcement of the provincial regulations, as well, of course, as the RCMP. So we will be having patrols that are out there in our community, similar to the last closures, and we will be reminding our public of these restrictions, reminding them of what is in place. Of course, our first option will be to remind people of these restrictions, reminding people of that they are only to be engaging in these outdoor activities with your immediate family, that we are to maintain social distancing and to wear masks where physical distancing is not possible. So that enforcement will take place. We certainly ask all of Red Deerians, so that we can continue to enjoy these outdoor recreation opportunities, to follow the rules so that additional restrictions will not be required if we continue to do what we need to do, as the ultimate goal, of course, is to stop the spread of COVID-19.
Next question, it may be for City Manager or for Mayor Veer. Will there be tax adjustments due to the closures?
There will not be any tax adjustments. There were previous accommodations made to extend the 2020 year in terms of people paying their taxes, but as a result of these closures, taxes were still due on the date that's been set. With the closure at the rec center of the temporary city hall, we will be communicating to the public other ways that you can make your payments online through financial institutions, etc. So we will be communicating that in the very near future for you.
Mayor Veer?
Thank you very much. I'll address the tax question as well. So as of last week, Council set our budget for 2021 and 2022. The tax rates are frozen at 0% for both of those years. Utilities are capped at a 0.5% increase, and all user fees across the city and any type of fees that are applicable are also frozen at 0% as well. Any savings realized in 2021 as a result of the closures, which the city manager noted, which are substantial, those just roll over into the budget. But as of now, we're sitting at 0%. We're sitting at 0% when council attends to the tax rate bylaw. in April. If there's any significant adjustments, those are accounted for before that time.
We have another question for our friends at RD News Now. Do you have a message to the community at this time about maintaining our morale?
That's a great question. So hello to our friends at RD News Now. I think morale is a challenge in general. We've been at this since March. Pandemic fatigue is very real in our community, in our province, across our country. We know that Red Deer is an incredible community with a very special community spirit, and Red Deerians have proven that we can come together time and time again to accomplish what seems to be the impossible. We do have the ability as a community to make possibilities become our reality when we come together. I know that there's division about, and I addressed that in my opening remarks, about how we should be responding or how we should not be responding. And we know that the pandemic is affecting everyone differently. Some are highly fearful for what COVID-19 might mean for an immune-compromised loved one. Others are very fearful for what it might mean for their livelihoods. So what my hope is that as a community, that we recognize the greater good, that we all do our part, and just be kind and gracious to each other, and recognize that many people are in different places in terms of what they're comfortable with or not comfortable with, and we just need to respect that in each other and to do our part. My hope is that we will honor the public health restrictions, that to the best of our ability, that we can have this short term of stopping the community spread, of increasing the capacity at our local hospital, so that we can return to a semi-new normal early in the new year. The less that we honor the public health protocols, the more protracted this has the potential to become. And I will say, I had hosted a call earlier this week, so yesterday, earlier this week, it was yesterday, just before the provincial announcements, to renew our efforts, not just as a city of Red Deer, but as a community around the region, to harmonize our local response and restrictions and response to the public health orders. Throughout the pandemic since March, the Central Zone region has been the lowest amongst the case numbers. We've had low hospital admissions, and we've started to see an uptick in the rate, and we need to suppress that. And we need to chart our own fate in that and suppress that trending upward. And my plea to the region was that we would work together to do that, because we all share the same hospital.
And our last question is for City Manager Alan Seabrook.
Okay. Just wait. Thank you.
The question is, will anti-masking protesters receive a fine?
So, in answering the question, a couple of things. First, the masking is a requirement mandated by the province that was announced yesterday in all outdoor or all indoor facilities. So the answer to that would be yes. Any of the province has indicated to the CPOs and the RCMP that the whole goal of these restrictions, which is presenting lots of challenges for many Albertans, is to reduce the spread of COVID-19. And it's been shown that one of the most effective ways to do that is to wear masks. And that has been mandated by the province, and we will be enforcing the provincial guidelines as laid out. So any of the anti-mask individuals that do go against that guideline, yes, first we will be reminding people of that fact, but if that is not adhered to, we absolutely will revert to enforcement. But we would ask everyone, as the mayor has indicated, is to be kind to each other, to be kind to everyone in the community. Regardless of what your beliefs are, there are people that are impacted by this. And if we all pull together and do the little things, that will be what will bring our community together, and it will certainly be what will get the spread limited, and we'll be able to move back to some normalcy as we continue to roll out the vaccinations that of course, as everyone knows, started yesterday, symbolically in the United Kingdom. And we know that those are on their way to Canada very shortly. So there's great optimism out there. We will get through this, but we're only going to get through this by everybody pulling together and being together. We don't get through this by having to write tickets, by people not protecting each other and being graceful to each other. So that is our ask as city administration, that you make our enforcement people that are out there trying to protect you, and let's not make their job more difficult, and let's just follow the rules.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Visit reddeer.ca for all the details of tonight's announcement.